Hi and welcome back. It's the 13th of August 2014. You'll have to excuse the CPU on the laptop going crazy in the background. Every time I run this program, I dare say it's very graphics hungry. It just sets off the CPU fan to try and cool it down. But what we're looking at here is the jet streams, and as close as I can get the HPA on here. If you remember, yesterday we was talking about the HPA settings. The further we've got at surface level is around about 1000 HPA, and as we go lower down the HPA we go higher up into the atmosphere. And yesterday we was looking at the anomaly between 10 HPA and 70 HPA, and on the screen calculator for altitude V's humidity or pressure, what we was discussing is that it was around about 10%. So what we're looking at behind the the data here, first of all, I've set it at 250, and the reason why I've done that is because the jet streams, which we can see in the background there, those very dark purpley coloured bands, are usually around an altitude of 7 to 12 kilometres. So that would correspond on the calculator to 35%, but we haven't got a 350 HPA setting on the height. So it'd be around about 500. You can still see the bends on the jet streams at the background there, to 250. But I've left it at 250 because it brings out stronger formation of jet streams. Now, a couple of things I want to just quickly point out, because I don't want to leave it on this program because it's just, like I say, very power hungry, is we can see the two most prominent jet streams on the Earth. Now I think first of all, if we have a look over the North Pole or the Arctic Circle, we can get an idea as to what the jet stream looks like with a bird's eye view on it. Now, it never used to look like that, guys. The jet stream used to be a nice wavy line going all the way around with an occasional break. We're probably talking within about the last 10 to 20 years it looked like that. As you can see, it's very fragmented. It's got a lot of cyclical events to it now. It doesn't yawn around in a nice neat wavy line. In fact, it's very, like I say, very fragmented, and it's all over the place. It's all over the northern hemisphere. If we take a quick look at the polar jet stream on the Antarctic or the South Pole, we can see it's very different to what it is on the north, in that it is visually stronger, for one. Again, there is some fracturing of the jet stream, where it leaves, goes further over the Arctic Circle, and then yonders back into the streams, sort of like where I'm pointing at there. But the other point to note, guys, is I know that the polar jet streams, both on the Arctic and the Antarctic, are the strongest. We also have two other jet streams, which are subtropical jet streams, and they don't appear to be doing very much. And the other thing to note is that the Antarctic jet streams is coming up within the region of the subtropical jet stream, which I think is worth mentioning. But the anomaly that we was looking at yesterday, and I'll set it to 70 on this because that's closest to 10% on the calculator, which gives us the altitude of about 15 kilometers, which is the region where the ozone layer is. We still see something missing, even at 70, getting it close to 100, which is represented, as I've just said, by 10% on the calculator. If we go over the Arctic region, we can see that there is this vast area untouched, which covers a lot of South America and Mid-America, well past the United Kingdom. If I set it to the even higher altitude of that, we get a clearer picture. Now, I suggested that this was the ozone hole, and I was watching a video about an individual who near Vancouver in Canada has recently done a 200-mile survey, and he's raising some money to carry on this survey that he's been doing. But he's noticed a lot of marine life has almost become semi, if not extinct, in the area. Remember, this guy used to dive 6 hours a day and pretty much every day of the year, and he has noticed a stark change, not just on the coast where the shore rises and falls during tidal parts. But I won't go on too much, I'll just get straight to the point. I'm just wondering if the loss of biodiversities along that shoreline are not just related to, as he is stating, Fukushima, as this is on the Pacific Ocean, but could it also be to do with ultraviolet radiation seeping through the ozone and catching the biodiversities along that shoreline? Because I'm sure that would have an effect. I'm sure that if the temperatures changed in those regions, that would affect the biodiversity of life. Now, he's found that there isn't a complete wipeout of marine life there. There is about 4 species, but what he did notice that there was a reduction in the insects, the migratory birds, because the certain foods ain't there for them. And I just think it might not just be solely related to the leaking radiation from Fukushima. However, I don't think that would help the ecology of that marine diversity in and around I think it was the George Strait, which is not far from Vancouver. Don't get me 100%. If I'm wrong about that, I've messed up that name. It's just off the top of my head. But the point is, I wonder what other life forms have been affected, if this is partly to do with UVB seepage through the ozone layer. And there are plenty of coastlines around this area that can be checked by ourselves. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people that live on these coastal areas, if they walk down to their beaches, that they might just spend the day there when the point it is low tide and high tide, and just see if they notice any missing biodiversity of marine life. Just see if there's any alterations perhaps over the last 10 years that you may have been going down there. And we could do this in Ireland, England, Siberia, Canada and North America. Because this is a gaping hole and it covers quite a lot of continents, right over into Europe as well. So maybe if you want to get involved in this and just, out of curiosity, have a look at it, because it's only when we start collecting information that we start to build up a bigger picture. Again, I just wanted to point out, how the jet stream usually has a nice bend all the way around it, and usually covers it in not a fragmented fashion. But the other thing that this picture also points out is that we've got subtropical jets, and those are not quite visible on the the computer modelling data that we're looking at live. See if I can find another one of these jet stream images for you. Before I show you the other visual model of where the jet streams are, I just want to point out on Google Earth so that you can see the equator is at 0 degrees. Now, around 30 degrees north and 30 degrees south we should have the subtropical jet streams, and then at 60 degrees north and south we should have the polar jet streams. And yes, our bet you've already picked up on that, the significance between the 3-0 if we drop the 0 it's a 3, the 6-0 if we drop the 0 it's a 6, and at slap bang on the top of the Earth, or the rotation axis, at 90 degrees, if we drop the 0 it'd be a 9. There is your 369. You know, coincidence or not, that is where the, you know, nature has chosen to put her jet streams on this planet. But the point is, guys, if you just bear note to where these jet streams are, 30 degrees, if I just rotate the planet, you might see that 30 degrees is around the top of Florida. 60 degrees is above England. You know, that's where we're supposed to have the polar jet stream over the Arctic Circle. And, you know, like I say, we're supposed to have a subtropical jet stream around 30 degrees, and again 30 degrees south and 60 degrees for your polar jet stream. Bear in mind, when we look on the model, which we'll do after I've just, you know, clarified that with the, you know, the diagram of where your jet streams are, we'll have a look at the model and you'll see that the subtropical jet streams, both north and south at 30 degrees north and south, have pretty much dissipated, and that the polar jet streams are a lot lower than where they're supposed to be. So, you know, I think this in itself is, you know, quality proof that you know, the jet streams aren't where they're supposed to be on this planet. Let's get that model up so you can see that for yourself, guys. So very quickly on the model, you can see that the subtropical jet stream, you know, lies at 30 degrees north. On the, after we went over the equator, it would be 30 degrees south, and your polar jet stream is likewise 60 degrees north. And like I say, that would be the same where we'd find the jet streams on the south, 60 degrees south. So if we have a look on the model then as to where those are supposed to be, I think it will reveal the truth of the matter. Just quickly before we do go over and have a look at where they are, I just want to point out at where in the atmosphere we're looking for the polar jet streams. They occur between 7 and 12 kilometers, so around this region here, for those that are interested. Now, you might have noticed over the UK we're getting a lot more of these cirrus clouds form, which are clouds with high concentrations of ice crystals, and what they look like in the sky, and you'll probably see them today. I mean, I'm always seeing them now, and we're also getting sundogs in the UK. I mean, I live quite central UK, somewhere in the middle, and for us to be seeing these, you know, I think is very unusual, because they're more common in polar regions. Yet, you know, they are, like I say, the polar jet stream is a lot lower now in the UK, and that's further proof that the jet stream has drifted south by somewhat 1,000 miles. You know, it used to be above Scotland, now it's below central England, and that's why we're getting these you know, cirrus clouds form more frequently. And just before the sun sets, when it gets to around, I think, 30 degrees you know, in the air, you know, at sunset, it's not quite on the horizon, but you know, it's about 30 degrees up, you'll see these sundogs forming either side of the sun, and I've even seen them above the sun as well, you know, directly above the house when I was looking out in the garden. You know, it was just unbelievable to see these things, and sometimes they're very bright as well. So, you know, something for you to look out for if you're around the 52 degrees longitude on the northern hemisphere, you might see them as well. But yeah, just to, you know, reclarify, you know, we're looking at something between the troposphere and the stratosphere. That's where these usually are, and they range from about 7 to 12 kilometers. We're talking obviously about the jet stream. At 15 kilometers we're getting the anomaly where we're not seeing pretty much anything happen. That could be due to the ozone layer increasing now. I've done a little bit digging last night, and in 2011 there was already a significant hole over the northern hemisphere, or the Arctic region, which I've got the image, those photos collected from the data back then in 2011, which I'll show. All I'm suggesting is that in the space of probably 3 years from when these was done, that anomaly with regards to the ozone layer has probably got a lot larger, and the effects of that are probably being noticed now in wildlife. And like I say, I believe all this stems from the migrating magnetic dipole over the northern hemisphere. So let's have a look then at the computer model at an altitude of 7 to 12 kilometers, and in relationship to where those jet streams are supposed to be, just to rebut that, so that you know without a doubt there is a shift in where the jet streams should be, and there is also a noticeable weakness or weakening of those subtropical jet streams that should be around 30 degrees, but they're not very prominent at all. So let's have a look at that model. So here we are back on the model, and just to give you the fact that it is up to date. There's the date, 2004 8/13/10 local UTC time, and we're at 250. Remember, I said it should be 350, but I either go more than 350 or less than 350, and the reason why I've chose to go 10% less is so it brings out the trend in the jet stream, so we can have a good look at it. I'll just remove the grid, and what we can see is there is at 30 degrees north, remember I said around Florida, we should have a subtropical jet stream, and it's not clear that we've got a subtropical jet stream. The other thing I said is that the jet stream used to be above, the polar jet stream used to be above the United Kingdom over Scotland, and you can see that there is a fragmentation of it being over Scotland and also below the United Kingdom, but I have seen this on some occasions where it hasn't been over there at all. The thing is with this, when you get these long sine waves of jet stream, is that they're usually dragging in or downwards in these funnels. They're dragging cold air, subtropical air, polar air along with them. Now that could explain why we're seeing more cirrus clouds over England, because it's containing more ice crystals, and that could also explain why we're seeing sundogs as well. But as you can see, the subtropical jet streams around the equator are not there, or if they are, they're very weak, to say the least. Let's see if I can bring that back in. If I just rotate it round, you can have a good look. And you can also see that the polar jet stream over the Antarctic is a lot higher than what it's supposed to be towards the equatorial region, where the subtropical jet stream should be. The polar jet stream is in fact overlaying that. And these are not very tidy, jet streams. As you can see, they're intermingled. I would use that word. I'd say that we're getting an intermingling of subtropical and polar jet streams, and that's why we're getting the weather systems that we are. We're getting hurricanes, because when you mix the hot and cold together, you get hurricanes as well as tornadoes. I'm not surprised we haven't heard of more tornadoes being formed. However, for some of those that are not in the UK, I mean, recently we just had the tail end of a hurricane here in the UK. Could you believe that? And but the point is here, guys, is to just bring out two facts. That is the fracturing of the jet stream, the repositioning of the jet streams, the dwindling subtropical jet streams, and when we look at the northern hemisphere only, and we go to around an area of 15 kilometers up into the atmosphere, we see that there is clearly something missing over there. And I would suggest that that could be, a tear or an enlarged tear in the ozone that was already there and talked about in 2011. Now, why that isn't being talked about now, I find very bizarre. Guys, I see a few people on YouTube that ask for people's help with regards to whatever it is they're doing, and a lot of the time they're going out their way to bring the data to you. Now, I don't know what it means to you, these earth changes, but what I can say to you is this, is that you shouldn't allow yourself to be anaesthetised by any of this information, because if you start to think of this as normality, then I do worry about that. These aren't common occurrences. You don't have a huge gaping hole like this over the Arctic region of the ozone, and you don't have relocating jet streams, you don't have migrating magnetic poles or splitting poles, and that is what we've got. And it's only recently in our history that we've started to get this. Adding to that, we've got the deplenishing sunspots and the weakening photosphere, which emits the radiation for us to enjoy the climate that we've got. Remember, this planet is a Goldilocks planet. Any closer to the sun, there'd be no water. Any further away, it would be a block of ice. And we're seeing these changes. I've said this before, the last time the Earth went through a complete magnetic reversal, according to historical records obtained from the Atlantic ridge, and the ridge spreading, the seafloor spreading around the the Atlantic ridge, it was 780,000 years ago. This is a rare event, guys. And there's something else I want to talk about in a few other videos, maybe over the next few days, with regards to what a few friends have brought to my attention with underground tunnels that was dug around, I believe, 17,000 years ago. Some of these, I know there's a tunnelling system in Turkey, and I'll get the details on that for you. But the point is that this tunnelling system was over many floors or different levels down, and it had the capability to house 20,000 human beings, as well as cattle. Now, the discussion I was having with a friend is, why would somebody want to go underground? It wouldn't be to avoid the enemy, because the enemy would simply just plug up the air holes, but they had systems of rocks that they rolled into place to close off doorways, and we both agreed that they wasn't hiding from enemies, they was probably hiding from something, or the forces of nature. Now, what could that have been? Well, I seem to remember reading something about the Egyptians saying that they were sterilised for 10 years due to something happening on the sun, and I'm just wondering whether that was due to a large rip in the ozone layer, and whether this ozone layer is an anomaly on its own and in its own right, and it's probably more reoccurring than we think, than our history has at least recovered in its records. What does this mean? I mean, well, we're seeing it, aren't we, guys? We're seeing these flash floods, torrential rains that take place only for a short period of time, yet cause widespread damage and flooding to depths of feet, and burst riverbanks within an hour's raining. This is not common, is all I can say. This is something of a recent occurrence, guys, and I'm pretty sure the governments are aware of it. They know, probably they have sat down with their teams, I would have thought, and worked out at what point it then becomes widely acceptable and the public begin to panic about it. And I think that is the only reason why they're not coming forth with the information right now. If you remember, I had two separate occasions where NASA employees had messaged me and said, we're not going to come out with it. We know that it's a magnetic anomaly that's taking place, so I believe that this is all related, as I've said, to do with the magnetic anomaly that's taking place over the North Pole right now, with it splitting in two, and we're getting quad poles on the Earth. They said they're not prepared to come out in the media and announce it either way, because they wasn't sure themselves whether this was going to be a minor magnetic anomaly where it doesn't really affect much, or a major catastrophe. So there is the, you know, the levels of where this could possibly go. It could be something that we can deal with, or it could be something that collapses, you know, most countries' systems that are in place that give us, you know, this sort of life that we're accustomed to, which I have said is, you know, completely against nature anyhow, because when you start to filter in foods into cities in the quantities that we do, then they're not self-sustaining territories, and that amount of human beings shouldn't be within the vicinity of each other in the first place. And I've said this, you know, I think we are overpopulated on this planet, and you know, if you want evidence of that, then just have a look at how much resources we're consuming. We're already over-consuming the amount that is sustainable right now. People would argue with me with that. They would say there is plenty of space on this earth for us all to live, but you try living in a barren desert and you know, try and sustain a population in the barren desert. It's very difficult. You need resources, you need food, you need water, etc. So I'll just end this video then with that image of the ozone hole over the northern hemisphere during 2011. And like I said, I wasn't aware of this yesterday, but I think it makes sense that what we're actually looking at, with the lack of activity over the northern hemisphere right now, we could be looking at a larger rip in the ozone, especially when we compare it to, you know, the rest of the earth. This anomaly is only taking place over the northern hemisphere, because we can see there is plenty of activity on the other pole. And I ask the question, why isn't you know, the North Pole likewise, or the Arctic region? So we'll go and dig out that photo and that data on that then for you. So just to round up then, guys, this is that article where it discusses in 2000, if you see the date over here, 2011, the 3rd of October, and they're talking about the ozone layer over the Arctic Circle, the northern hemisphere, and you can see the level at which it was at back then. But they do mention a couple of things in this article, something to do with, you know, the effects it could have on humans. Something, where was it now? Let me just see if I can dig it out. Yeah, here. The ozone layer blocks ultraviolet B rays from the sun, which cause skin cancers and other medical conditions. You know, it also talks about its relationship in how it affects the jet streams directly by repositioning them. So this is something that seems to fit what I'm saying with regards to that anomaly that we're viewing on that computer modelling system. And you know, is it something that they want to cover up? I mean, what is it that they can do about it? I mean, what they're saying also in here is, with ozone destruction takes place within the polar stratospheric clouds, where with chlorine the main culprit. Now we know we're going into an ice age. We have noticed on that computer model that when we click over that region at that altitude, 15 kilometers above the surface of the Earth in the atmosphere, we found that it was warmer at that altitude than anywhere else on the Earth. I mean, if we look at the Antarctic region, the South Pole, we see that it is something like 50 degrees Celsius more colder on the South Pole than it is on the North Pole at that altitude. And are they trying to control this ice age taking place by spraying chlorine? Because I seem to recall someone mentioning that the chemtrails, one of the chemicals that they were spraying was chlorine. Now, I'm just putting it out there. It could fit. It could sound like a conspiracy, but if man is trying to manipulate this planet from going into an ice age, which seems to be on the cards with relationships to what the scientists have already discovered with what's taking place in this photosphere on the sun, and with sunspots and with surface temperature heating up, that could be what they're trying to do. Remember, I said that I think personally that this is the big one. This is the big ice age. This is the one on record that is overdue to take place. And are we trying to stop it? Because if we are, in my view, meddling with nature in that manner, then I think that there could be some very serious consequences, because this planet regulates itself, and if it starts to get an overheated core temperature, then maybe an ice age is the way in which it cools it back down by putting a thick layer of ice and snow over the polar regions of the Earth, and therefore going into an ice age. If man's messing with that and preventing it from cooling itself down, then this could get out of hand, guys. We could seriously overheat the core. And it's like I've said before, it's like the human body. When it gets hot, it perspires, and through latent heat it evaporates the heat off that way. I'm pretty sure that nature does replicate itself, even to planetary systems. And if we are messing with things like that, then the repercussions of that could be twice as worse as going into an ice age. I say if nature sends an ice age our way, then we've only got one option to do, and that is migrate to those positions on Earth that can sustain whatever amount of people within them regions. I could talk about conspiracies, guys. I think you've heard a few of them. There was Bill from Camelot that came up with the Anglo-Saxon mission, whereby the governments were all in agreement of a catastrophe with relations to nature taking place, and it was in their plans to reduce human population before that took place. You could quite easily say, well, if we look at what that woman from the IMF that I've done in the video, she was talking about the sevens, if you remember, but isn't it, as someone else pointed out, isn't that a coincidence in itself that 2 months before the G8 was broken down to the G7, she mentions the G7 and not the G8, or she mentions within a few seconds of that. If you go back, you'll see what I'm talking about on that video. You'll see that she mentions the G8, yet she's talking about the magical number 7. Seems as though some people already had information to hand with regards to what they was going to do with Russia by kicking it out of the G group. To me, anyhow. We went off on a tangent there. What I was saying earlier about these people, these individuals taking it upon themselves, I suppose I'm one of those that go out to get the information to you. They're asking for support. All I can say is that the BBC, that a lot of these scientific organisations, like the British Geological Survey, the Canadian Geological Survey, the American, and vice versa all over the world, don't seem to be coming forth with the information. And it's certainly not in the media's interest to put it out there. Now you've got to ask yourself the question, why do they cover such trivial junk when there are such important stories like this going untold to the majority of the population of the planet? You know, we all live on the planet, and if something's changing with the planet, surely that should be of interest to someone. And what I'm going to say is, guys, is I think there should be more support for guys like myself. That gentleman that is doing that survey along Vancouver, or the George Strait in near Vancouver in Canada. You know, there should be a lot more financial support for, you know, us, what we're doing, because we're the only ones that are doing it. And you know, you get these people like Brian Cox that don't have a YouTube channel, which is, in my view, you know, a way, a means of directly connecting with the public. You know, YouTube's good for that, and they don't seem to be taking that opportunity, and perhaps it's just because there's no money involved for them. Maybe that's why they don't do it. I don't know. Maybe they feel they've earned their salary from 9 till 8 working with, you know, the Jet Laboratory and CERN and the ESA and NASA and NOAA and all those other, you know, organisations. They just don't have nothing left in them after that day's work to actually come on and do a YouTube channel and discuss things. Or maybe they're just not allowed to do it. You know, maybe they'd lose their job. But the point is, guys, you know, we do deserve to be supported. You know, I think you can see from the quality of the research that I do on this channel, I've first of all hit on probably one of the biggest topics that is really of this century, and that is, you know, the magnetic pole migration or division, whichever one you want to call it. And also, you know, I'm on the ball with this recent anomaly. I've mentioned jet streams before, but we are, I think, narrowing it down now to a target of what is causing all this. I think we're getting there. You know, we're refining it every time we look into these things and find out a little bit more. And you know, it all has to equate to something. And you know, like I say, I think it's worthy of the support, and it's a pity that a few more people aren't doing it. You know, one of the reasons I have to stick on data gathering from, you know, the sources that I do at the moment is because I just don't physically have fundings to, you know, purchase other bits and bobs that I'd probably like to. You know, it's a shame that, you know, I just don't have the luxury sometimes to buy a coil of wire, which is, you know, I think it's sad. I really do. You know, a coil of wire, 25 quid. But, you know, if I get a donation like I did the other day, you know, of £20, someone donated to the channel, I had to spend it on a new set of headphones because one of the speakers had packed up in the headphones. It's just crazy, you know, in the headset. You know, there's always something else that the money has to go on. It's just terrible. You know, and you know, I've tried raising money through doing, you know, competitions, and just never seems to be. I just never seem to get myself in a position where, you know, I can spend some money on some new equipment and not have to worry about spending it on other things. I mean, that's how bad it is. I mean, I think these organisations that get such large contributions from government sources, you know, don't deserve it. I really feel that sometimes they don't deserve it. And let's just look at what Swarm's done, the ESA with Swarm mission. I'm able to get hold of level 1, 1B A and 1B and level 2 data on that mission, but the rest of the data I'm not. Why is that? You know, it's not a top secret, or at least I didn't think it was a top secret mission that was taking place. Why should they classify, you know, magnetic anomalies that they're recording? Why won't they give the data out on it freely, you know, and make it available? I've also emailed the ESA and asked them for the information, and you see, this is the common thing, is you just don't get a reply from them. I mean, I've done the same thing with the British Geological Survey. They shut themselves off to the rest of the world, yet they are paid by public money, and they should be handing this information over freely. I mean, if we've got to take them to court under the Freedom of Information Act, it's just, who's going to do it? Who's got the will and the drive in them to do that? just to obtain some, what I would class, low priority information. Now, if they are hiding it for some reason, there's a reason for it. Otherwise, why do it? But I guess what I'm trying to say, guys, is we need a bit of people that are doing this sort of research. We're the only ones that are getting the information out to you, and the ones that give the real information out, as opposed to the ones that just talk about stupid conspiracy theories. And I mean conspiracy theories that do not hold any weight and have got no reputable facts and evidence supporting them. That's what I'm talking about. And I think we should be supported. And you guys are the only ones that can do it. I don't get any advertisement revenues off this channel, and I will never go down that road again because of what happened to the original channel with regards to YouTube and Google. What they did was nothing short of theft and deception and fraud. I think it's about £3,000 now, and there is no way of contacting them to resolve the problem. And they've banned the videos globally as a result, and I'm pretty sure someone within that department is laughing up the sleeve at me. But I won't do it again. Once bitten, twice shy. I'll have no more to do with Google advertisement or any form of anything to do with that company. But there you go, guys. So I will put the link down there, guys. Again, I think we're rebacking this up with some facts, and there's been some good data. I apologise for the time in which I've spent explaining the facts, but there's a lot of information, and I don't think I could do it in a quality way if I just condense these videos down to 5 minutes. I know your time's important, you've got a lot to do, but guys, you should be giving this some time, some of your time, because of the importance of it. So I'll put the link down there. I'd like to think that you'd want to support the channel and keep the information coming. And I hope that is what you do. And it's not just myself that needs support. There are other people, and there are other well-worth projects on YouTube that can be supported as well. So guys, as usual, be prepared, be safe, and bye for now.